Welcome to the Cowpart Bros podcast. I'm your host, Terrence, and with me is my co-host, Jason, calling in for the Bat Cave in Indianapolis. Jason, how are you, my good man?
I'm ready to have fun today, Terrence, aren't you? Now for time for another episode, sir. Episode 66. Ready for some fun, because it's Tuesday again. I get to see my friends and talk stuff. Let's get into it.
Yes, sir. Thank you for listening to this episode 66 of the Cowpart Bros podcast. For the uninitiated, Cowpart Bros is the podcast to hear. We are a weekly podcast for fans of sports, current events, and entertainment.
And as always, we are your hosts, Terrence and Jason. And every single Thursday, we come to you with a brand new episode where we discuss the current events of the day, sports, and the athletes we love.
And even some of the athletes we loathe. No matter the topic, you can expect a brutally honest and fun exchange of snark while learning through the lens of our 30 years of friendship that originated in Calumet Park, Illinois.
And folks, for more Cowpart Bros content, make sure you connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok under the handle Cowpart Bros or Cowpart Bros Podcast for more behind the scenes of the show and just to engage with us every single day. But do not forget that the Cowpart Bros Podcast is available to listen and subscribe for free wherever I'm talking to you, listen to podcasts.
Yes, you. Like us, love us, share us, follow us. And folks, if you like us, hell, why wouldn't you?
And folks, like Terrence said earlier, with his big personality, we are the podcast to hear and watch. So make sure you're living it, loving it, and doing it.
Okay. All right. First segment. Oh my God, Jason, I could not believe I'd let you talk me into this shit. We are done alleging that we don't talk baseball on this show because we actually are starting off the 66 episode first segment MLB at the first half mark at a glance. And so, hell, objectively, you have watched way more baseball than I have this year. But I think biggest notation for me starting the year off is that the Chicago Cubs are making news for the wrong damn reasons.
In my opinion, the right reasons, because they suck. And that's a good thing.
Well, you can say that Wrigley Field sucks for a variety of other reasons.
No, the team sucks.
Relax. But I think, sadly, what came out of the news this week is that the Chicago Cubs ended up getting sued for an adults with disabilities act, basically an accommodation issue with some of the seating at Wrigley Field. And so, honestly, though, that's been the biggest issue. That's been the most newsworthy thing that the Cubs have done all year, is that they basically, they plunked down all this money into Wrigley Field in upwards of $500+ million, what's called the 1060 project. And so there were a lot of enhancements to Wrigley. Okay. Those of us that have been to Wrigley Field in the last 5 years, if you've been fortunate enough to go to a game, you're probably like, wow, this is a nice renovation effort. But of course, I'm saying that from a perspective of someone who doesn't have a disability. And so what came to light from this lawsuit is that the lawsuit was filed in, turns out, 2019. And later, the United States Attorney's Office picks this up. Is that there were several basically general admission wheelchair seats with not great views. They were incredibly obstructed. And so I even saw Fox 32 Chicago pick this up, where they were interviewing fans at the stadium, and they could see from their eyes, their viewpoint, how it would look. And you're just seeing a whole bunch of you're seeing less of the game is what it is. You're seeing basically a railing, and it's clearly an obstructed view. And I don't care who the hell you root for. This could have went down at the cell, Jason, and no one would have been cool with that. Also important to note, similar lawsuits have been filed against other ballparks regarding the ADA access, where the Baltimore Orioles play, and also where the the Seattle Mariners play. So um, that that's a little disheartening. And of course, the Cubs are going to come out with a press release stating, "Hey, these seats have never been better." But clearly, there's been some fans with an axe to grind, and that's why they took it to the courts. They took it to the streets, dog. So I'm hoping that my favorite baseball team can get this sorted out. I wouldn't feel great if, while I am not disabled, I would not feel great knowing that somebody paid their hard-earned money for a bullshit obstructive view like that. So that's been the most noteworthy thing for me in Major League Baseball right now. Cubs in the news for the wrong damn reasons. What have been some responses to that, other than the fact that clearly you wouldn't be caught dead in Wrigley, and some of your assessments of the first half of the MLB season?
Just sticking on the point of what you mentioned about the lawsuit against the Cubs and the other lawsuits against the Orioles and Mariners, just as someone who's been to Wrigley Field once and only once, but and as someone who's not, like you mentioned, doesn't have a disability, physical one at least, that one thing about the Wrigley Field Stadium, because it is older, it probably doesn't offer the best views from certain seats just in general. I know that I can say that for the one time I went to Wrigley, we were sitting on the lower level, but kind of further up in the back. And it kind of just seemed like that basically the way the overhang was, like basically any ball hitting the air, you're not going to be able to see it. Which is what it is. I know Wrigley Field is an historic park, so I know there's only so much they're going to be willing to change, which is what it is. Don't want to make the whole segment about that, but I definitely wanted to at least address what you just said about that lawsuit. And regarding the Orioles and Mariners, obviously their stadiums are a lot newer than Wrigley Field. The Mariners got their park in 99, and Camden Yards, where Baltimore plays the Orioles, was 92. Now, I'd imagine they've made some renovations to their stadium since then, just like the Cubs did with Wrigley Field, but obviously not enough apparently. So hopefully they can get that recognized and taken care of and do right by all their fans who choose to go and attend games. Now, that being said, now it's time to be mean to the Cubs. No, but hey, as far as the first half, so let me ask you this. So what do you actually know about the actual baseball season so far, besides just the Cubs and what the record is and what they're doing? Ever been keeping track at all of the season when it comes to teams, players, or anything like that?
I know the White Sox so far, from my vantage point, based off of discussions I've had with you, the White Sox have underperformed at this point. They're not out of the playoff picture by any stretch of the imagination, but I know they've had injuries, but so has every other squad. And I mean, objectively, every team has had injuries. Just don't argue.
I'm going to.
But yeah, I know some people are not really satisfied with the production of the White Sox so far, but half a season in, you're still in the running. You're not completely out of it. And who knows? Any team can get hot the second half of the season. Also, I know that pretty much the New York Yankees are obliterating everybody, and their first half record is just gaudy at this point.
That's a pretty fair assessment. We'll come back to the White Sox part of that. But yes, whenever we talk about the halfway point or the quote unquote halfway point of the season, I talk about, hey, what teams are where, what are the standings in each of the divisions, what players are doing well, what pitchers are doing well, who deserve to get fired, trades, things like that. But first off, yes, the New York Yankees, record-wise, are definitely the best team in the league. They have 64 wins as of right now, folks. As of Tuesday, July 19th, when we're recording this, All-Star break, 64 wins. Best record in baseball, almost a 700 winning percentage, which is pretty awesome. That division as a whole, the American League East, definitely record-wise is the best division in baseball. 4 teams have a winning record, and the other team is at 500. The Baltimore Orioles, 46 and 46. So that division definitely great. Baltimore itself is probably right now the hottest team in that division, winning 8 of the last 10 games. They had a 10-game winning streak not too long ago before they lost 2 in a row. So they're doing very well. As far as the other divisions, the Twins are leading the AL Central by 2 games over the Guardians, formerly the Indians. The American League West taken over by the Houston Astros have a 9-game lead, which has come down a little bit from what it was before. In the National League, the Mets 2.5 up on the Braves. In the East, the Brewers are up a half a game on the Cardinals in the Central, and the Dodgers, as to be expected, are 10 games up in the Western Division of the National League over the San Diego Padres. We won't go into the wild cards, nothing like yet. That's what the teams are doing right now. Now, some of that is kind of going against expectations. And when I say expectations, that's really based off of probably a lot of the websites, but just going off what the experts, the analysts say on ESPN, they had the Blue Jays as a team winning this division at this point, winning the division at the end of the season, which they still could, but it's not looking like it. They're 14 and a half games back, which can always change. Of course, they had the White Sox, the winners of the Central, which still could happen. Houston obviously winning it. The Braves taking the East, which they still could. Milwaukee taking the division, which they could still lose. And obviously everybody had the Dodgers. So there's a little bit of difference there. But again, like you said, each team's only about 90-ish games in, maybe 92, 93 games in. Still have 70-ish games left, and things are going to change a lot. But it's really been kind of interesting to watch, too, also from what players have done. Aaron Judge, as to be expected, he's definitely looking like one of the best hitters in baseball, 285 average or so, 33-plus home runs. He's killing it. Probably the top MVP candidate right now. And, of course, we can go into that as well. But you mentioned the White Sox. From my perspective, yes, they're 500 right now, 46-46. They're projected by me to win 90-plus games, which they could still do. And I say that the record, or rather their schedule for the second half, it's pretty easy, we'll say, compared to the first half. So, yes, a lot of teams have had injuries, but I will say this for the White Sox. They still have not played one single game this year where they've had their entire optimal starting lineup of the season when it comes to like their original depth chart. So there's always been at least one of their number one players on the lineup out. No one's been out for the season, but just every so often somebody comes back and somebody else went on. So that's supposed to change in the second half. Yasmani Grandal, not that I'm a fan of his, but he's supposed to be coming back once the All-Star breaks over. So hopefully by next Friday, this coming Friday, we'll play our first game with all of our number ones to start our comeback and take the division. I personally had the White Sox winning at least 45 games in the remaining 70 games they have left. I think that'll be enough to get them in the playoffs, if not win the division. Some of the other things we can always go into before I go and jump into some of the player performances. What do you kind of think of the standings? As I'm sure you kind of pulled them up right now.
I mean, that's the only standings that I really brought up that I cared to mention. I see the Mets are doing well, Dodgers producing clearly, and some of these teams clearly stand out on having a great first half. What I didn't know, clearly all this damn focus is going to be on Aaron Judge. What I didn't know is that Giancarlo Stanton and Anthony Rizzo, top 10 of home runs, same damn squad. That's now I know why the record's so damn gaudy. They got the game on easy mode in New York right now.
But the one thing to keep in mind, kind of goes back to what we've been saying before, is that they're starting off great. Not to say they're going to completely tail off, but at the same time, the Yankees also, they've had other seasons in the recent past. I know this is past stuff, and people always say you shouldn't talk about the past because you're talking about right now. But at the same time, the Yankees have had other great regular seasons and they got into the playoffs and then lost before the World Series. They haven't won a championship since 2009. Now, obviously, there's other teams that have longer droughts than that, including the White Sox and not the Cubs anymore. But but the thing with they're hitting the ball like crazy. Obviously, as a fan of a different team, I'm hoping that doesn't maintain itself. But that's from the Yankees' perspective. That's something to keep in mind. Is that yes, they've had Aaron Judge and Stanton for the last few years, and now they have Rizzo. Maybe that may make a difference. Having that third big bat or a third big bat in there, they have other good players, I'm sure. But that could make a difference. But the thing is, to watch with them is once they get to the playoffs, which we're months away from that, are they going to start tailing off at all? Now they're not peaking right now. The peak team right now, they're really a true hot team right now is the Seattle Mariners, who've won 14 games in a row. Like I was telling you the other day, winning 14 games in a row in baseball or any sport really is nothing to sneeze at. That's what you want. You need to build up your win total. However, with the baseball season being a marathon, is this the Mariners' peak? Are they peaking right now? Because you don't want your peak to be in July. That's what you don't want. So we'll see what happens with that. Obviously, they're going to lose a game at some point. When that's going to happen, we don't know. So kind of apply that to the Yankees. They came out hot and on fire at the beginning of the year. They've only won 5 of the last 10 games, so they're kind of struggling a little bit right now. But if you're going to struggle at any point of the year, do you want to be in July? I kind of feel like you do. Get hot in the beginning, maybe have some struggles in June and July, but get back on track for August and September. Or in the White Sox case, start getting on track in September. So we'll see what happens with that. I know, like I said, at the beginning of the year, a lot of the experts picked the Blue Jays and the Dodgers to be in the World Series. Again, both teams are in the playoff race, so that could still happen. I mentioned the wild card just for an example. As of right now, which that's one of the good things about expanded wild card playoffs, I'll give it the leagues that, including when the NFL did it, is that you're going to keep a lot more teams in the race, which means a lot more fans are going to be in the mix. For example, as of right now, there's for the American League wild card, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right now, there's 7 teams right now. They're in legitimate contention for a wild card spot. In the National League, it's about the same. Again, that can always change, but in previous years, take away that extra wild card spot, you probably have a lot less teams in contention. And we might keep an eye on this in September, see where teams are at. So that's how that's going right there. Some of the predictions, like I said, when it comes to MVP, I mentioned Aaron Judge, but actually Shohei Ohtani is actually also another top candidate for that because, again, we saw him win it last year, actually, when he won it. The fact that his team might not have the best season, we talked about this on a segment, that his team may not finish with the best, with a good record, but because his individual performance is good enough when it comes to him hitting and pitching, that's what's going to get him attention when it comes to an MVP award or even a Cy Young, because he's a candidate for that too. National League MVP race, Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado on the same team, the Cardinals, believe it or not, they're actually probably one of the 2 of the top 3 candidates for the National League side of things. So those are kind of the big hitters that are doing pretty big things. And I think I'll be interested to see how that plays out. Not too often when we get back-to-back MVPs anymore from the Major League Baseball. So to Shohei do it, he's definitely popular enough. People actually like him. So that's I'm not saying that should be a reason why anybody wins MVP, but when it becomes to, hey, we have a close choice here, Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani, who's had a better season? You can argue that, but like you said last time, we talked about this before, Shohei Ohtani has that advantage because not only can I hit well and show it, but I can also pitch well too. So, but although I will say though, a couple of things with Aaron Judge, yes, his team's the best team in baseball, but like you just said, he has 2 other big hitters in the lineup with him. They're helping smash the ball and give these guys this record. So that could be an edge for Shohei Ohtani, who again is also in the AL Cy Young candidate race too. So crazy enough as it is, and that's another point to him. I think personally Justin Verlander should win that. He's 39 years old, and his ERA once again is sub 500. Now, obviously Shane McClanahan has a lower ERA, but the fact that Verlander is again 39 doing this, and his team is markedly doing better than the Rays, it's kind of like, well, I think you should get that there. And
Gotta give it up to the old guys, man. Props to him.
Exactly. So, but do you think you might start? What do you think about the second half of the season? You think you might start getting more into it now that the kind of the other sports are out of the way? You think?
No.
Oh wow. Okay. Okay. Keeping it real on Cal Park Bros, folks. Keeping it real. So
I think I will have the same approach that I do to most sports. I mean, the reality is, Major League Baseball, it's too many damn games. And I'm not one of these crazy people that's going to try and say, oh, they need to reduce it to somehow cater to my needs. No. If you like it, I love it. keep it at 162, dog. I'm not advocating for changing the amount of games. It's not going to change my level of interest. Just listen, just like I typically don't tune into the NHL until the Stanley Cup playoffs start, I have a similar mindset when it comes to Major League Baseball. When it comes wild card time, yeah, I'll tune in. I totally will.
Now, it's not me being funny. This is really asking you a serious question. If the Cubs are actually in playoff contention, would you still feel the same way?
Yeah, I would.
Wow. Okay.
You know, given with some of my personal commitments and my professional commitments, the reality is my time is going to be allocated elsewhere, and that's just the real. But
what are your personal commitments, sir? I want to know your business.
You are my business. That's part of the fucking problem. Anyways,
are you not master now?
between pre-production and during at the actual show, we might have 3 Roots references tonight.
Maybe.
Oh my god. But yeah, man, I think there's just certain sports that I am more likely to tune in during the regular season. And there's other sports that I'm not as likely to tune in until the playoffs are close. And that's okay. Like, dude, what's funny is because of this show, you forced me to actually pay attention to some of the nuance of the game. Ironically, I care more about ex-Cubs right now than I do about the current Cubs players.
Like Kyle Schwarber?
Yeah, Schwarber God. I love a pudgy hitter that strikes out a lot. It's like the fat dude Hall of Fame. I love it.
But he hits dingers. So there you go.
Yeah. I think that's a big reason why, I do feel good seeing Anthony Rizzo be successful. If he can't be successful as a Cub, I want him to do well wherever he is. So I'm happy that those guys are successful. So that team is always going to have a special place in my heart. And so I'm always going to root for those guys. I'm always going to root for Chris Bryant. So that's how I feel about MLB at the halfway mark.
Fair enough. Terrence Brown, baseball hater. And on that note,
that concludes our first segment. Coming up next, we're going to be talking about having bigger fish to fry with a case of dealing with Subway's tuna lawsuit. Coming up next on Cal Park Bros.